Hi there, this is Pastor Greg. You're watching Transforming the World. Again, just a quick reminder that we're taking a look at the biblical characteristic of friendliness today in our study. We're drawing this study out of something called the Disciples Journal, and you can go to the church's website and download a copy of that book here, that study guide, at the church's website, fcob.net. Friendliness, let me just remind you of this. Friendliness is best understood as displaying warmth and kindness toward others and truly desiring what is best for them. It's not simply being cheerful, and it's not simply being bubbly and outgoing, but friendliness is basically a desire that good things, that God might bless the people that you meet, that their lives would be blessed. There's good things that happen to them. Friendliness is not so much about us, but it's our expression toward others. There's a really good example of friendliness that comes out of Scripture. It's in Luke chapter 10, 29 through 37. It's a story about a religious leader who happened to be an expert in Jewish law, and also about a Samaritan man. We'll take a look at this parable in just a moment, the parable of the Good Samaritan. We'll look at that in just a moment. But again, thank you for joining me. My name is Pastor Greg, and you're watching Transforming the World. So this religious guy, this hey, I've got my PhD, my doctorate in religious studies, and you don't. One of those kind of guys. Oh, I know more than you. These kind of guys, they just are so smug in their knowledge. It just makes you want to gag. Well, anyway, when he comes to Jesus and he's basically saying, what's the greatest commandment? And Christ comes along and says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Well, then he turns around and says, love your neighbor as yourself. But the guy, looking to justify himself, this is what the Scripture says, looking to justify himself, he goes, oh, really? Well, just who is my neighbor? And then Christ goes on to tell him the story, the parable of the Good Samaritan. If you're not familiar with the story, just a quick synopsis. There's this Jewish guy traveling on the road to Jericho, coming down out of Jerusalem, making his way down a treacherous road to Jericho, and he gets mobbed, and he's beaten up and left for dead. There's a couple of Jewish religious guys that walk past him, don't lend a hand, even to this guy who's laying there bleeding and dying. However, this despised Samaritan stops. Not only does he help the guy, but he takes him into town, gets him situated in a hotel or a place to stay, whatever, and pays for his expenses until he's well again. The Lord's lesson here is really obvious, that the one who demonstrated friendliness, even towards somebody who hated him, was the one who truly fulfilled God's law. And you need to know, if you're not familiar with what it means to be a Samaritan, it means that at one point in time in your heritage, you may have been associated with the Jews who came out of Egypt, but because of intermarriage, marrying non-Jewish people, their faith sort of became tarnished, if you will. And so pure and holy pedigree Jews looked at these Samaritan people and say, you're not really Jewish, because, your mother was Canaanite, so you're less. They despised these Samaritan people, Jewish people did. And the Samaritan people knew it. Read John chapter 4, the first few verses there. Jesus meets a Samaritan woman, and she's like, why are you talking to me? You're Jewish, So the Samaritan people knew it. They knew the Jews hated them. And yet, here's this Samaritan guy in the parable that Jesus tells. The Samaritan guy knows that Jewish fellow there hates him, but still reaches out and shows friendliness, a genuine concern. A Christian must never feel they have the right to be unfriendly. They must never feel they have the right to be unfriendly, even toward those who hate them. This is important. It's an important lesson. I know we struggle with this. I get it. I have angered and upset my share of people over the years, even during my years of pastoral ministry. There have been folks who prayed that I would leave their church. I knew it. I knew they were praying that. I knew they wanted me out of the door. I was actually forced to resign in a church. Never given a reason why. They just said, pack up your things and be out in 4 days. So I get it. Friendliness doesn't come naturally. Desiring the goodwill of those, especially those who hate you, those who don't like you, those who have wounded you and persecuted you, desiring goodwill for that person is awfully difficult. It is. I get it. But the problem is that we're still commanded to be friendly. So how do we do this? How do we express friendliness toward those we know hate us? Well, see, if we rely on our own abilities, our own strength, if we follow our feelings, well, naturally, I'm not going to want to display friendliness because I'm busy following my feelings. Do you get my point? I let my feelings determine my expressions of Christianity. But we have been told to become a Christian, not to live as a Christian, not in our own strength. Christ told us that in all circumstances, we are to fix our eyes on him who is the author and perfecter of our faith. Hebrews 12:2, great passage of Scripture. Our wounds and our hurts, the bruises that you and I have received from others in this world, are the things which keep us from running the race. Verse 1 of Hebrews 12. We are encumbered by those who have wounded us, those who despise us, who hate us. They hinder our ability to be friendly. And chances are that these people will never come to you seeking forgiveness. They're not going to come with their, holding their hands, wringing their hands and saying, look, I'm so sorry for the way I treated you. Chances are that's never going to happen. Very few people actually have the strength and the fortitude to admit that they are wrong. Our feelings need to follow our actions rather than our actions following our feelings. And so we express friendliness to these people. Even though our feelings aren't there, we follow the Spirit's guiding and leading in our life to do what we know we must do. The story about the Good Samaritan, I find it to be very, very, I think it's a marvelous story, actually. He showed kindness and he showed friendliness toward this wounded Jewish man who on any other day would have probably spit in his face. And yet the Samaritan man, following the command of Christ, did to others as he would have them do to him. Matthew 7:12. Lesson here is obvious. It's so obvious. You and I should do the same. When we show friendliness and tenderness toward those who despise us, we are truly following the commands of God. Where we find the ability to live like this is something that we're going to look at tomorrow. In the meantime, thank you for joining me today. My name is Pastor Greg, and you're watching Transforming the World. Have a blessed day.